What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Mortgage Coach Friday Mastermind. Every Friday, 9 o'clock, we are here to mastermind with leaders in the mortgage and real estate space. And if you're watching this on YouTube, this call is on YouTube by 11 o'clock every day, every Friday. So check us out. I think this is the 261st time that we've done this Friday Mastermind. Unfortunately, Todd Bookspan, my co-host and partner in crime, is mobile and does not have good enough connection to join us. So we're going to miss Todd. But we have Deborah Byrd, who's been collaborating for most of this year. Deborah, it's good to be here and glad you're here.
Me too. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen you, Dave.
I know. Well, I think I missed last week.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we didn't do it last week. Now that I'm coming to think about it, it was Thanksgiving. And then I do think I've been traveling a lot myself. And first time we've been on Zoom.
Sorry, you killed it on the gratitude call right before Thanksgiving. You and Todd. That was great. Great call.
I think it's the only time I've cried during a call. Like that was, I actually was debating whether I was going to push that one into YouTube because I was just like, I got a little too transparent there.
No, it makes you feel so connected to you. I loved it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And all joking aside, I really enjoyed that call. Thought it was super valuable. And I had a number of people saying, hey, you should do more of that little fireside chat. And they wanted to see more of it. So we will do more of that, guys. Although I don't know. I think, Deborah, you're the one that asked the question that actually.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll just make sure I decide how I answer your questions next time so I don't get too emotional.
No, it makes people attracted to you. They get to learn a little bit about your story. One of these days I'll probe Kevin with a heart-wrenching question.
Well, that's your goal. Let's try to make Kevin cry today.
Oh gosh.
Let's see if you can think of an emotionally probing.
It's not that hard
question that
to be honest,
have a tear.
It's not that hard. I'm a softie, so you won't have to try too hard.
All right. Well, that's our goal. Everybody listen to this. We're going to try to make one of America's best. I don't want to say real estate agent because that's not who Kevin is. Yeah, he has been a real estate agent. He leads a huge team. He also has a massive EXP platform. He's got one of the most engaged, valuable face groups in all of real estate. And when it comes to like how to do real estate masterminding, I mean, I am not just saying this because we have Kevin on the call. He's probably one of the best people we could be asking this about because he has built his career masterminding, putting together masterminds. So Kevin, real quick, just so folks know a little bit more about you, like how big is your EXP platform and how many loans does your team do? And then let's get into masterminding.
Yeah, no problem. So first of all, as you said, my name's Kevin Kauffman. So I've run a real estate team first and kind of foremost. It's the kind of backbone of what we do here in Phoenix, Arizona, though we do still sell a little real estate still in Denver, Colorado, and a couple other cities around the country. But most of that is focused here in Phoenix. And we probably averaged 100 to 110 million in volume last, I don't know, seems like 6 or 7 years now on the real estate sales team. When it comes to the EXP side, or what I kind of look at as kind of like the extension of the sales team, we're just a hair over 1,500 people now and growing. And I honestly forgot the last part of your question, so I'm not sure if I answered it completely. But my day job is a realtor, but truthfully, at the end of the day, my job I look at my job not a whole lot different than most of the way most of the folks in your community see their job. Like I'm not actually out, in people's living room. I haven't been in production for years, for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years now. And so the vast majority of my time is spent in the real estate agent relationship kind of world. So
guys, think about that. He's running a team that's doing over 100 million in production. So that he's a whale. And then he is recruiting realtors into EXP. And did you say 1,500? You've got 1,500.
Yes,
so guys, think about that. You were talking to a guy who's built an EXP network of over 1,500 loan officers. And we get to talk to him about masterminding with agents. And then also we get to talk to them about, hey, recruiting agents. So remember, Kauffman, our audience are realtors, loan officers, and their goal is to be the most valuable loan officer to agents. That's why they're mortgage coaches, and they're delivering more than just transactions. Like a lot of loan officers could close a loan on time. Not a lot of loan officers could be a conversion partner. Not a loan officers can really deliver advice and value like a mortgage coach. So now before we get into it, this is the first time I've seen you in the studio, and that background looks pretty rad. Are you at home right now, or where are you?
No, so I'm in the office. So we started working on, so as you know, I didn't even mention, I also run a podcast for fun. That's kind of like, this is something I enjoy doing. And the, after 3 years and a couple hundred episodes, decided to finally build a little studio and not just do it on Zoom with AirPods, whatever these things are called. And so we've got a little studio set up in here. I'm kind of taking a little tour. So that's really just like some textured walls, some tiles I bought on Amazon.
And Kevin, do those come in like 18 by 18 inch squares?
They're either 18 by 18
stick?
or 12. Yeah, they're 18. They look 18 by 18. Yeah, you just glue them to the wall, or you can put something, you can put a piece of wood in between the wall and that, whichever. And then got a mic set up and everything, and I have not figured out how to use that on Zoom so I can hear the other person. So I haven't. So not using the professional mic today, but so we're there. We're almost all the way there.
So do they have a sound value, or they just look cool?
No, those just look cool. They help a little bit on the sound, but it was just more to add texture to the background, since it's, you can only get so many shots from sitting either at a table or over a Zoom with somebody. So just to give a little bit of pop to the background rather than a plain white wall or something with, just the same background that my actual office has on it.
Cool. Well, hey guys, you just got a little pro tip on how to make your background look cooler if you're recording from the corner of an office instead of having two, pretty boring white walls. You could turn those boring white walls into something pretty cool. Robert from the Mortgage Coach team just posted a link. So check it out down below. If you're watching this in Zoom, it's in Zoom. It's also in Facebook. And we'll also try to get that link in YouTube. So if you're watching the recording of this. So let's get to the topic at hand. We're coming into 2022. We're going to be advocating to every mortgage coach, loan officer that, hey, you should schedule a mastermind or multiple masterminds with realtors. So that is going to be a strategy that our community is going to be doing. Why don't you just share how you do masterminds and what you think are the important principles, and call it the checklist of doing a bitchin' realtor mastermind.
Yeah.
And then we'll make sure we make it relevant for mortgage professionals.
So it's funny is I don't think I have a written checklist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this recording and send it to the person that writes my podcast notes. So Violet, thanks in advance for helping me create this. So, and it's really good timing because, you and we're sitting here. It's Friday, December 3rd. Fred and I have another mastermind with like 35 of the top agents around the country coming on Tuesday of next week. And so we have, so this is super fresh in my mind because I've been quote unquote selling it, if you will, and putting that together now. So I guess, this came out of when I was on the last time, which was maybe a month ago or so, Todd, or I'm sorry, Dave, me and Todd and Deborah were talking about masterminds sort of towards the end. It just sort of came out. And we just kind of started talking about it here. This topic came up. I don't remember how that was, but if I remember correctly, it was struggling to get people to attend. Am I right there? Is that what it was?
I don't remember the topic. I mean, let's just go from the top, from what to do at a mastermind, how to get people to attend. So let's not try to answer a question from the last call. Let's just, I know you don't have it in writing, but you're going to have it in writing afterwards. What is your playbook and what is your checklist when you want to do a bitchin' mastermind?
Yeah. So I was trying to think from context wise, because I think I want to start there with like the invitation, right? So, and for some people, even people I invite, and this could just be my sort of weirdness about it, but my invitation is very, number one, personal, And number two, it's purposefully not detailed. And what I mean by that is like if I was going to invite Deborah to the mastermind, it would look like some form of this in a phone call or a text message. Hey, Deborah, just wanted to let you know I'm getting together a few of the top agents or top lenders or fill in the blank in my network in a couple of weeks, Tuesday, December 7th. And it's gonna be really cool. I'm gonna have, in this case, my buddy Frank Klesitz, who's the founder and owner of Viral Marketing, come out and sort of facilitate the conversation because he's really great at that. And then what I will do then is I will go in and sell him, because my approach is to sort of be the host of the party, not to be the star of the party. And so what I'll say is, what I love about Frank and the reason why I've asked him to do this with us is because, number one, he's a genius. He's got a core business of viral marketing, but what people don't realize is how great he is at, number one, direct response marketing and copywriting. And number two, he's a super passionate about investing in real estate, as well as he's one of those weirdos that is really good at systems in addition to being such a visionary guy. So there, I've just sold the person who's going to facilitate. And then I tell them, hey, Deborah, and what I've always found is that if I just put enough smart people in the room, like really good things come out of it. And would you like to attend? Would you be open to so that's kind of the invitation. And it's literally a phone call or a shorter text message version of that. That's how I invite people. There is no email blast. There is no Facebook post. There is nothing to market it, because I am genuinely limiting this to 30 to 35 people, depending on the size of the room I have. And even if I had a bigger room, I don't want a bigger room. I want a smaller room with less people. 15 to 30 people is really the sweet spot.
So let's talk about that, because, by the way, I forgot that I had this, but in 2015, I wrote a LinkedIn article on how to host a mastermind event, because I built my entire career masterminding. I mean, I literally was doing loan officer masterminds before I had Mortgage Coach, but that was how I built my mortgage practice. I mean, we're talking 25 years ago. And so I've personally done hundreds of them. And I just remembered when we were talking, I've got this little playbook, and I put a link to this down below, guys. And I'm actually going to rewrite this now. Maybe you and I will rewrite it. We'll write an article together from this call. But I remember, one of the things you always want to start with is like, who's your anchor? And to your point, you don't want it to look like this marketing event. You want it to look like, I'm putting together this group. It's very low tech. I've got such and such. Now I like to have two people. Hey, and if I was doing a loan officer mastermind, hey, I got Jeremy Forcier and, Denise Donahue, and we'd love for you to have this group. And I'll always kind of do like a first round invite, which is usually a text message or an email. And then as people aren't responding, like, let's just say there's this person would be perfect for the room, and they haven't responded. By the time I'm, a week later, I've got like 7 people. And now I'm like, hey, last chance, it's going quick. And now I've got blank, blank, and blank. Do you do that? Do you do kind of a multi-step invite, or is it usually like, hey, I send out one invite and I'm oversold?
I will remind some people, like if they say, yeah, I want to come, and then they don't sign up yet, because I'll send the link. So like we'll use Eventbrite because it's easy.
Eventbrite, make a note, everybody, Eventbrite, because it's easy.
It's easy, right? And it's got the tracking. And so that's the thing. I will do that. So like in a case like this, where I have Frank, who's going to come in and facilitate, Frank's the only person I'm really going to sell it first. That said, what I will also do is so as an example, I had one with a bunch of my folks who are in my EXP network earlier this year. And the way I said it is like, listen, I'm going to put a bunch of smart people in the room. We're going to talk about not selling real estate, but the things that we do around our real estate business. And so Andrew Franklin, who is somebody who is the #1 agent in all of EXP Realty, as well as a direct recruit to me at EXP, a close personal friend, has a massively successful title company, hard money company and has done this. Like he'll be in the room, he's agreed to talk about title and blah, blah, blah. And then as an example, I had my buddy Morgan Peterson at that same one, and Morgan has built a ton of self-storage. In addition to being like, you know, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in his town, he's got massive self-storage built up that he's done in the last few years. So I'll be like, and he's going to be there to talk about that. Or so I'll kind of add a few of the people who I know are already going to be there, a couple of those anchors as well. Or in a case like this, where I've got one person who's sort of a guest facilitator or quasi celebrity facilitator, I'll just sell that one person, right? And then to make it easier. So that's exactly how I want to approach it, because I don't want it to be about me. I really don't want it to be about anybody, but I do want to have sort of that anchor person, like you just mentioned, to kind of help say, hey, this is why we're coming here. Especially so considering what I do, and it's probably not much different than you. I'm sure if you guys reach out to a realtor, especially if you don't already have their business, probably the first assumption is, great, they want my business, right? Same thing for me is, great, he wants to recruit me to EXP. Like, I'm not talking about EXP. I'm leading 100% with value. I am trying to recruit them to EXP. Absolutely. I'm just never talking about that. And I'm doing it through absolutely trying to give them value into their business and their lives. And so that's my first step.
You've said something that I think is like super important, and I want to make sure every loan officer that hears this is that when you're doing a mastermind, you do not want to be, you're not there to be the smartest person in the room. You know, like I talk about this, I say one person needs to be the leader, and it's important. It's not the leader's job to be the smartest person in the room and to talk the most. And so that's a principle. And it sounds like you are delegating the leadership to someone else, but I'll bet you the way you show up for that room, it's like, hey, you're not there to like impress people and be the smartest guy. You're there to put together a super valuable event with really smart people and pull out the genius and the smartness and everybody else in the room.
That's the deal. Is I want it, number one, I want everyone else to feel like they're the smart like they're smart, right? Number two, because I am really aware of the people that I invite, because I'm doing this personally. I like the lion's share of people that attend these events, like I personally reached out to, I picked them. And so I know for the most part, probably 75 or 80% of the attendees, I know what they're special at. Like I know their jam. And so when a question comes up, I can tee up something like, Deborah, tell us about that system, because I know that you absolutely rock it. Like I can set somebody up like that, and I'm always ready to, even when I'm not the facilitator. And so that's always, yes, I don't ever want to be that guy that just kind of teaches, because a mastermind really is a lot more about everybody kind of sharing and helping each other and sharing what they're great at. And then those ideas kind of building on top of each other.
Tell me if you agree with this. So I have like these 5 keys to doing a mastermind. And number 2 is having the right people in the room matters. And then I say,
Yes.
I don't have any specific rules other than trusting your gut. If you have some concerns about invite someone, don't invite them. Because sometimes the person you don't invite is just as important as who you do invite. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. I'm very selective about who I let in the room, as well as you just can't have the conversation. I've been in too many, and I'm sure you have too, like as for a realtor, right? So I've been in too many conversations where it's like supposed to be a mastermind, high level, and somebody will be like, how do I hire a buyer's agent? And it's like, oh my, you know what? Go back to step 1. Like so we're not going to have that. So you can't have people that will ask the questions that will bring the room down, right? And in some cases, I'll give you a real example. We had something come up in our last mastermind that was, the conversation was getting pretty high level. And some guy thought he was a know-it-all, thought he knew something about a law that had changed, by the way, like 6 years ago, and really tried to disrupt something when a friend of mine who's now a developer was sharing in his business. This guy who used to do something once upon a time when he couldn't make it as a realtor decided he was like, we shut him, like we literally awkwardly shut him down and just said, no, dude, this is not that conversation. Like, this is our room. Like, you can leave. We literally had to get to that point. And for two reasons. Number one, we had to protect the conversation. And I can't tell you, even though it was so awkward in the moment, probably had 10 of the 30 people walk up to say thank you for shutting that guy down.
See, that built brand trust as well, where people know when you're hosting an event or if you're going to invite them to an event, you are so protective of always adding value that you will shut it down. So
Yeah.
when people don't do that, then they lose the faith and trust that, is this going to happen again? And that's where I feel like the online brand reputation is also important of what you're putting out there. That way you can be someone of influence. So if you do ask them to an event, you can't dilute. Some people will overdo it, in my opinion, and they dilute their brand. So then you never have something valuable to share or say.
Yeah. And you
or
got to
attract the right.
and part of that is like being select, part of that is the selection on the front side. And then part of that is just being willing to, like, if it has to get awkward, it's got to get awkward like that. Luckily that doesn't come up that often. When you do, the better of a job you do on the front side of filtering who's allowed in the room, the less of a chance of something like that coming up. But you're right, because it keeps that authenticity, and I think it does protect that for people. No surprise, that particular person was a guest of somebody who she was so embarrassed about that. But the reality is that that can happen when you start letting the guests get away. But so you got to really, really control the room. And I don't like to just say, hey, you're only allowed in the room if you do X amount of volume or X amount of transactions. That can sometimes kind of come off as just, I don't know if it's elitist is the word, but at the same time, if you're doing $20 million in volume or $10 million in volume, you have different problems than if you're doing 50 million or 100 million or 200 million. There's just different things coming up in your business. And the person doing 200 million really is going to have a hard time with getting value out of the conversation from the people that are doing 10 and 20 million. And so we really want to try to keep people as close together as possible from a productivity standpoint.
So I want to do this call in 3 chapters, and we're almost done with chapter 1, which is the invite. And then let's roll into what do we do at the mastermind? Like, what are some questions in today's market? And then let's make sure before we wrap this up that we're like, okay, how do we kind of make the most after the event? Because I think a lot of people, hey, they'll do a great event, and then it's like, okay, there's no system and process around how do we, make sure we execute the ideas. And if you're trying to recruit realtors, how do you do that? One edit I would make if it's a loan officer putting on a Realtor Mastermind is that you should go smaller group. Like, I think 6 to 12. Like, I think 6 is enough. I mean, I even think 4 of the right people is a great use of time. But I think when you get over 12 agents in the room and you're a loan officer, it's, remember, your goal is to emotionally connect with people. And if you have too many people, you're not going to get that emotional connection. What are your thoughts to mortgage coaches that are putting these on? Are you okay with that edit I have, which is let's keep them under 12?
Yeah, I feel like you've got to have a certain number just to have a good conversation going, right? Just to get enough, so that way one person isn't the subject matter expert for the whole time or carrying it, which might work in a shorter sort of hour, 2-hour thing. That may not be as big of a deal. But I agree, the less, and also that's the other thing too, is if you got a full day, you can have 12 or 15 people, or maybe you can have more. But I do think there's something about that from a just kind of building the way the room feels with that number of people. And if you have too many, you lose it. And so, yes, I guess that's a long way of me saying yes. I totally agree with you on that.
And then also you call it the, Mortgage Pro event. I think asking for a full day is going to hurt how many people you get into it. And I think if you ask for a half day where they, come in, you're not like doing breakfast, but you've got some stuff in the room for anyone that needs a bar or a banana. And then you do a half a day, and then you do a lunch. So you get them in like a, 3.5 to 4.5 hour mastermind, and then a hour to 2 hour lunch. Like, that is the play for a mortgage coach. what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so something that we've put into play is that we go all out on snacks. So it feels like a luxury. There's every type of coffee and energy or sports drink and fancy water and power bar, Cliff Bar, every type, like whatever we have it, we spend, dude, and it's so little. Now granted, for 30 people, we'll spend like $500 on snacks, but it feels luxurious for those people, right?
Love that. I love that ad, bro.
Because they can waste it. They can go open a can of coffee and be like, I've always wanted to try that oat milk latte or whatever, or that nitro, whatever. And then go open it. If they hate it, then throw it away and get another one, because there's literally 100 more cans for 20 people. And so we'll spend the money on that, so it feels super luxurious to them. And then we'll do a catered lunch and keep it shorter so we can kind of work through it. Depending, again, a lot of this varies day to day, based on the time. So do I have a full day? Do I have 2 full days? Do I have a half a day? Things like that. But the snacks thing is always in play for us. And once we put that in play, we realize like that's so money. People love that, and it just helps them to feel good and relax. And so we do spend a lot of money on snacks and drinks.
I love that ad. I've always been like, let's not get the cheap water and the cheap this, but I've never done like, over the top snacks. And I think that's a super smart move. And I'm definitely adding that to my mastermind playbook. Deborah, before we move on to the next chapter, which I think we need to do pretty quick because we're almost at the 30-minute mark, anything else you think we should ask in terms of inviting people? We've kind of nailed it. Anything for the mortgage coach community that you want to ask or you want to say?
Well, I was going to say, to piggyback on what you said, Dave, I noticed just when Denise did this, and I get to see it personally because I live in the same city. One, it creates exclusivity. She'll have like at max 10 agents in the mastermind. So people feel special, which is important. People remember how you make them feel. And it also forces people to not be quiet. They need to collaborate and participate in the conversation. And she does a really good job leading the conversation so that it follows that, this is, everybody's going to contribute and not any, no one's going to just sit in a corner and take notes or not be engaged. So that's important to her. And then I would say, just from what I hear from my clients, is how do you get super intentional with targeting the right agents? Meaning, are there any other resources that you two know? Like if you're not a licensed real estate agent and you can't pull up the MLS to look at maybe buyer side deals, how can they get intentional at finding the right agents to have at their event?
This could sound like a little offhand, but that tells me they don't know their potential customers. So, I would never.
Let's say they just moved to Tennessee and you're starting off.
I would just be going to other people's events to try to make connections. I would never pull this off till I know people that I could. So I know everyone I put in that room. I'm not pulling any lists. There's no way I'm doing that. Now, granted, maybe the type of mastermind that I want to put on is like a little bit different, but if I was trying to invite people to a class, yeah, maybe. Okay. But this isn't a class. This is something special. Like you said, there's this feeling of being exclusive to only certain people, which means I better know who those people are.
So, well, like if you were going to start that, go ahead, Dave.
I want to jump in on this because I have either hosted, when you look at the article, the picture in the article that you'll read will be me facilitating a mastermind for Jeremy Forcier. And now this was an expensive mastermind. Like he flew 12 realtors into corporate headquarters. It included, a boondoggle at a Cubs game, very expensive dinners. We did not have over the top snacks, but now we will. But I've either hosted or I've helped loan officers host smaller events. And here's what I always say. You want to have a couple agents in the room that they're your partners. You're either their key loan officer or your top 2 loan officer. And then it's okay to have some prospects, but to Kevin's point, them. Because remember what I said, number 2 rule, number 1 rule is, don't try to be the smartest person in the room because you'll just poison the whole place and you'll hurt your brand and you won't create a valuable experience for everyone. But number 2 rule is, it's who you don't invite can sometimes be more valuable than who you invite. So, and as a loan officer, you know, like Jeremy Forsey could get away with what you just said because he's, you know, he knows everybody in his market and he's a $200 million a year baller. But if you're, you know, if you're doing 20, 30 million, you may not know all the realtors, but you do have to know a couple of them, or one, you're probably not going to be able to pull it off. And then two, whoever you get referred to by another agent that you get in the room, you better make sure they're cool and you better make sure they're valuable. And those are the two things. So I do think, you know, to your point, I think what Kevin said is right. But I also know it's not realistic for every loan officer listening to this. And I don't want you to not do a mastermind just because you have a couple agents in the room that you may not know. But if they get in that room and they're not cool and they're not valuable, well, you failed.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Deborah, with what you were saying.
I'm trying to remember.
Okay, well,
I think you answered it.
You guys, whoever's listening to this, if you have another question about how to invite, who to invite, you know, I'm going to say we check that off in this call. Boom. Now let's talk about what happens in that mastermind. And then Deborah, if you could be prepared to hear what he says, but let's also kind of craft what is the January and February mortgage coach mastermind? What are some questions that our audience can bring into a mastermind? I know I have a very specific way that I do it, but I don't want to share my recipe until Kevin goes. So Kevin, tell us about what happens in the mastermind?
Okay, so this is funny. I am a believer that if I did my job correctly leading up to being in the room, so I have the right people in the room. I've done that job. There's a bunch of smart people there. This is the easy part. This is so easy. And my buddy Frank, who I mentioned earlier, is doing our mastermind next week, did our last one, and he kept telling me, like, what's the plan? What's the plan? I kept telling him, Frank, the plan is, you know how to facilitate conversations. We're going to ask questions. We're going to write down the topics, and then we're going to have conversations. And he didn't believe it. I just kept saying, like, he's like, there's no plan. I'm like, no, like, that is the plan. The plan is no plan. So we're going to come in and we're going to talk about, like, what is going on in your world right now? Like, what do we need to address? And here's the deal. Again, I invited everybody personally, so I know what people are really smart at, so I can tee people up, which means I probably have also had some conversations, and I know some things are going, so I can lob some softballs if I need to. But the reality is when you have really smart people in the room, you really don't need to do that. And so I'm like a piece of paper and a marker guy, and like start writing down topics. So sort of do an intro, sort of lay the, so we come in, sort of lay the foundation for what it's going to look like, introduction. And then we're going to start talking about, hey, this is going to be, it's kind of like this. We open, share a story or two, and anchor for them what the event is going to look like, and sort of like what the day will function like. And then it's just going to be, all right, guys, what's going on in your businesses? What do you want to talk about? What's the hottest topic, or what's on your mind coming into 2022, or whatever, right? A couple prompting questions, start writing, and then the conversations, let them start flowing. And that is literally what happens in the room.
I love that you said the plan is no plan, because I feel like those who come into it and they're there to teach, it's like, how do you know what you're even going to teach if you don't know what the student in front of you needs to learn or what they know? You have no background knowledge. So it needs to be about providing value. And how do you define value to the people that in the room, unless you ask them what would be of most value for you to learn today in the time that we share together?
Yep.
And that's why you do need to keep it small.
Yes. And that also gives me the chance to sort of filter, because of like the first thing that comes up is really dumb. Like, we can keep taking, I don't want to say dumb, maybe lower level, that I know is going to not land with people or going to turn people off. Like, and you can you get a sense for, once you have 5, 6, 7 topics, you get a sense for what people have the energy for. And that's going to really dictate where most of the conversation goes. So, and the one thing I'll also add, that we decided to change our kind of format, or shift a little bit with our format. And this is when we have 2 days. So we kind of look at number one is like day one, or part one, is about challenging the way we think. It's challenging the way we look at things, challenging our business assumptions, things like that. And then day 2 is more of a, okay, now it's a day of reflection and a day of action plan. And so we can, instead of looking at those as like days, you could look at those as part 1, part 2, but it's, first one is challenge how we think. Let's get all the ideas out, get everybody excited. Everyone's motivated. Everyone walks away with something that they could put into play. The next part afterward is cool. You're going to go back to your business and you're really excited. That's awesome. And what's the thing? And I always preface it like, walk out of here with one thing, right? Maybe you're going to write down 10 things that spark something for you, but like, what's the one thing that you're going to get done first? And then now our shift is to go to, hey, what if we even did some one-on-one meetings, or you can even do them in group exercises, walking people through just different questions to set them up for basically how are they going to go and implement what they learned and got it excited about.
So tell me what your thoughts on this, because I think we do the same thing, only I think maybe I do it a little differently. So once the table is set, and usually I do this a couple days before the mastermind. Like this is not something I do a week before. It's not something I do the day before. But once I know who's going to be in the room, I will send a personal email to every person. And it's really simple. You know, like the headline is, hey, prep for our mastermind in 3 days. And then I'll ask them, you know, hey, I want to make sure we have a really valuable half-day session. You know, and then and every time it's a little different, but I'll never ask more than 3 questions, but I'll always ask at least one. What is there a question you want to make sure we cover, or what's the biggest topic you want to make sure we cover? And I'll send that email out. And usually about half of the people that are coming will respond. And usually there'll be like 1 or 2 people that it's like, oh, holy shit, man, they like totally hooked it up for me. You know, they really, you know, responded with some gold, you know, and then usually there'll be a few other people that, you know, give me 1-word answers. But at least I gave everybody a chance to kind of weigh in before the event. And then really when I tee up the event, I open it up with, you know, there's the rules are pretty simple. Participation is a must. And everybody in the room needs to be super candid and transparent so we can have some really good dialogue. Those are the 2 rules. Like, be super transparent and candid, and everybody has to participate. What are your 1 thoughts to the prep? And then what are your thoughts? Because I already got one big takeaway, like super sized snacks. What is the setup in terms of how you guys open the meeting, the mastermind?
The prep like that is fun. Like, truthfully, like, it's probably a good idea. Like, I don't want to go through the trouble of sending out an email and asking people ahead of time. Like, again, I'm really conscious of the fact of who I have in the room. And so I'm letting that do the hard work for me, or I'm relying on that. But it's more about, for me, it's just, again, we're setting the stage when we sort of do the open. I'm going to share a story, something you just said, which is 100% true for us too, which is, hey guys, number 1, if this is gonna be really good for us, we all got to be open and honest and vulnerable. And if we're going to do that, then we also have to all agree that what is said here stays here. So that way everybody feels like they can be open about their business and not have to worry about, you know, other people knowing it. So that's part of our sort of opening and intro and sort of, you know, setting the stage, if you will.
Well, I like you just added something, because you know, really good point. It's a Realtor Mastermind, and everybody needs to feel like, hey, they're not telling the whole market what's happening in that room. They're telling the people that are in that room. And by the way, it made me also think of something, because a lot of the masterminds that I've done, I don't know everyone. So that prep question is important for me. But for anyone listening, you're a loan officer. If you know everybody and you know you have the right room, you probably could skip that step. But if you've got 2 customers and you got 3 or 4 people that you don't know as well, you might want to send that prep email.
Or stalk them and figure out what they are great at if you already know them, right? So I'll even like go through the point of, if I had to, like I did it for the last one because Frank was going to facilitate, not me. So I wrote down, like, it was like probably 25 of our 30 attendees, I wrote down something that they were all an expert at, so I was going to give it to Frank if he needed it. So
Love that.
I didn't have to give it to him because I almost never, it's so rare I have to rely on something like that, but that's there. And so I wrote that down. I was like, Dave is this, and Deborah's like, it was like 2 words, like, this is the thing if we get stuck. So, so yeah, so I guess I just prep a little bit differently.
Yeah, well, that's why we're interviewing, bro. I want to know how you do it and compare it to some other things. So guys, we're 40 minutes into this. Remember, guys, this is a mastermind. So if you're on Zoom and you have a question, or you're in Facebook and you have a live question, you want to make sure you net this out. I mean, I am telling you right now, if you are a mortgage coach and you're a badass loan officer and you don't do a couple Realtor Masterminds in Q1, you're blowing it. You're missing out on an opportunity to get closer and more connected. You're missing out on an opportunity to create value for these agents. And I do believe there's just nothing more valuable than doing these agent masterminds. And there are also a number of interviews in the mortgage coach community. I interviewed Rick Shear, who $200 million producer in the Boston market that does a lot of agent masterminds. I've interviewed him on this topic. I will probably interview some more folks in the next couple months. So we'll get more content, but if you're not doing this, you're just missing out on lots of value and opportunity. Deborah, anything else you think we haven't asked Kevin about what happens in the mastermind? Anything else you want to make sure we get?
Well, I was thinking for prep work, how do you select the content topic? And I'm assuming it's around current pains or current felt pains for agents that would provide the most value typically, or, could you shed some light that if you were a loan officer, and let's say that the first 5 months of the year, if you wanted to make this a reoccurring thing where you're adding value, what would those good topics be for an agent?
So it's going to depend. Like, an example, yesterday, my business partner and I sat down and wrote out the dates for the next 4 or 5 of these we're going to do next year.
Mm-hmm.
I'll worry about the topics the day, like I'll either worry about the topics the day of or the days leading up to it. Right. So in that case, I know why I'm doing it. I'm trying to get people in the room, bring value to them and their business. I know that I can always do that on any given day. I'm not looking to be the person that carries the conversation, but I can be it as a last resort. And so,
but do you have like some staples of
No.
business planning, the start of the year, the end of the year, how to track numbers, review where your gaps, like any staples that you do?
No.
No.
I mean, those are all great. And I don't want to be, I don't want to be so boxed in. Like, there's a million different business planning. Like there's probably 10 going on in Phoenix next week. Like, I don't want to say that I don't care about that, but that's not really my jam. So I think part of it is just being really excited about maybe the topics that we're talking about. Right. So I'll give you an example. Something I know that's come up a lot in our masterminds this year has been advanced tax strategies with real estate, whether that be from accelerated depreciation of assets of rental properties to deconstruction versus demolition when doing rehab. So there's different hot buttons, right? That are coming up if your ears to the ground and you're kind of in the trenches and talking to people regularly for the month or 2 or 3 or 4 months in between these meetings. Like, all you have to do is sort of be paying attention and what people are talking about.
So first of all, I love where this is going. Paul asked, can you expand on how you stock? I mean, I don't think it's any more than, check them out on social media,
Yeah.
But is there more to stocking other than making sure, find out if they have a YouTube channel, watch one of their videos, know how big they are on Instagram, Facebook, and if they're on TikTok or not, but know what channels they're on and watch 1 or 2 pieces of their content. Is there anything more to stalking these people than that?
No, but and again, I'm only doing that if there's I only give it as a recommendation if I don't know the person. And again, I probably know the person or at least know of them. Like, if we don't hear, like, this is one thing I would say as an outsider to what you do. If you don't know your target.
Yeah. No.
To the level that you know your target is probably to the level of the chance you have of them becoming a partner of yours.
Boom.
That's
Guys,
great.
like we could just drop the mic right there.
Yep.
Biggest reminder to all of us, and that goes for not only an agent mastermind, but if getting business from realtors is your alpha referral partner, you need to have a list. You're not just randomly chasing agents. You know who they are, you know what their production is, you know what their superpower is, you know what their team model is, you know what their primary lead sources are, and you know how you can help them, and beyond the transaction. If the only thing you can do is help them close deals, guys, there's a lot of loan officers, banks, credit unions, and people that can close deals on time and with good rates. So one thing that's super important to me in this next 15 minutes is that I want to make sure that when a mortgage coach does a mastermind, I think we've given them how to invite, how to do it so that it's kind of organic and good. But at the end of the day, they also, while you don't want to come across and be like the smartest person in the room, you do want to do a little show and tell. And I'm going to say that when you do show and tell, you don't talk about what a great loan officer you are, and I got a team and I'm available 24 hours a day, and kind of do that loan officer spiel. I think what I'd like to do now is I want to play a little 5-minute video from the Modern Mortgage Summit from a loan officer that Denise knows pretty well. And Deborah. And I think this, I'm sorry, that Deborah knows really well, her twin sister, Denise. I want to play this real quick, Kevin, and then I want to get your impressions on it, because I think this will be really important for our community. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's bring Denise Donahue on stage and have a little 5-minute how she does. Now, again, put context, this is not a realtor mastermind. She's doing an actual realtor lunch and learn. But I want to talk about how you could take this move and how you could integrate it into a mastermind. So let's check it out.
Are you ready to blow the mind of a group of real estate agents so that you can gain more partners? I'm going to share this super easy trick that we probably do all day, every day, but it's how to leverage your total cost analysis in a way that gets you more realtor partners that weren't using you before. So listen up. One of the things I did at the start of this year was I put together a Realtor Mastermind. So I sent an email out to all the real estate agents and I said, hey, I'm hosting a real estate mastermind. I'm going to be sharing strategies with you that are going to help you and your clients get offers accepted. Because in this last market, holy smokes, getting offers accepted was the hard part. So as a loan officer, I thought to myself, how could I be a valuable partner to help them with it? So I got all of them together and I shared these 3 total cost analysis. And all I did, folks, nothing fancy. I know that sometimes my marketing can seem fancy. That's the nerd in me, but techie stuff, not so great. I printed out on a sheet of paper these total cost analysis, and I had them on the table when each real estate agent came in. I shared the cost of waiting 1 year, and I walked them through how to read the chart. And then we went over the analysis of, the rate of return on that decision, whether it be 8 years or 10 years or whatnot. Then we shared the appraisal gap strategy. This one, holy cow, golden ticket. Agents eat this up. It's not even rocket science for us. We're just essentially changing the down payment, but they don't know that. And so when they hear appraisal gap strategy, they're like, wow, I wonder how many deals I could have got accepted had I been working with a lender partner that offered an appraisal gap strategy. Then the third one was the rent versus own strategy. And the reason why this one was so important this year is in our market, if you had an FHA buyer, it was almost like you would get them pre-qualified and you'd send them to the real estate agent and you're like, hey, we just got Susie pre-qualified, FHA, $300,000. They were like, are you kidding me? I'm going to be spending every weekend in my car showing them houses and they're not going to get an offer accepted because it's FHA. And so then we'd have to go back to the client and be like, okay, let's see how we can get you conventional. And we started experiencing buyers and real estate agents getting something called buyer fatigue. So again, I said, I'm going to share this strategy and I'm going to show the client before you throw in that towel. I'm going to show you that if you throw in the towel and say, I'm just going to wait a year, what that cost is with renting versus owning, and where your purchasing power is going to be if you continue to rent versus if you own. And in this example, I mean, it was insane. You show clients and real estate agents the numbers behind that decision, and they start doing this, which means they take the towel back because they're like, okay, I'm not ready to quit. Let me work on my credit to get it conventional, or let me go ahead and ask grandma for that gift so that we can write a conventional offer. Here's my point. Real estate agents aren't used to seeing this. In fact, most loan officers that even prepare these, you only share it with the client. We're not sharing it to real estate agents. So take some examples, put it on a piece of paper, host an event, and show your partners what you do for their clients. And the ones that aren't using you, make sure you ask the question. I learned this in my High Trust Academy. Ask the question, how many deals do you think you lost this year because you weren't working with a mortgage planner that utilizes strategy? And then let them speak. And they will literally be thinking of every client that they spent every weekend going around looking at homes that didn't have appraisal gap strategy or was only FHA qualified. And they will be so mad at that lender that they're like, ugh, I'm only using you from now on. It is so powerful. And if you want to up the ante a little bit, start sharing this on social media. It works the same way, because when consumers see this information, they will think to themselves, my loan officer didn't do that. I didn't get a strategy. I was just given a fee sheet. Man, they really know what they're doing. Share your total cost analysis on social media, pair it with a story, and convey that you are different. You will get people reaching out to you to do business versus you having to reach out to them. So I hope you like those 3 strategies. Book your Realtor Mastermind and let them know you're a loan officer with a strategy.
So, I mean, I obviously love that. You know, the only edit I'd have to that is when you're doing a mastermind, you know, don't hand these out at the beginning. Like, you know, do the mastermind, make sure that I would say somewhere in the 4th quarter or kind of in the third, you're 2/3 into the event, huge value. Everybody's got lots of takeaways. And then you've got your, again, you don't want to position as a commercial. You want to position as, hey, I've got some mortgage strategies that I think will help this room, and try to, like, when you frame your little show and tell, try to frame it around something that was mentioned. Like, hey, John, you said this, and you know, you're not just like, oh, I came to this mastermind and I'm planning to show this. Like, your goal is you're playing off the pain and the problems in the event. And then you do have these things printed up, and you're like, hey, I'd like to hand out some things. And then you like hand them out at that time. So that's the only edit I had from what Denise did. But the idea of having mortgage strategies, the ideas of showing a total cost analysis as part of the education. Kevin, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree, first of all, with your sort of edits to it, but I think that's amazing. Anytime you can show somebody something, it's something tangible, like it's gonna land.
Cool, love it. So we got 6 minutes left. Deborah, any questions or comments on that? And then I also do want to make sure we kind of close out with, you know, hey, how can you, while you may not want to market, you know, turn this into a marketing thing to get people in the room, you probably want to take some pictures, and you probably want to let people know that, hey, I'm balling with the best. And then you probably want to have some social media strategies post event so that you're, you know, you're position, you're getting value in the small group and you're amplifying it in a bigger audience. So Deborah, where do you want to go with this? Any other questions you have for Kevin?
Well, Denise is very intentional when she does those and understands, without it being too obvious. But I mean, she's asking the people in the room, if there's something that was valuable that you learned, you know, post it, tag me in it. So it's not always her doing self-promotion, and it's extending the invite of, you know, having them make a post and tag her, because you'd be amazed how many people just won't do that or won't share. But when you have other people, I say, selling you or being your raving fan, it gives you credibility and it makes more people want what you have and be in your next mastermind group. But again, that's a qualifying elite status for you to be at her event, let alone even her private Facebook group, which a lot of other marketing goes to, that not every agent gets to see.
So hope you guys heard that. You know, you sometimes not the post you make, it's the posts that other agents are making that you're in, you know, as a mortgage pro to help amplify it. Kevin, what is your social media strategy, or any tips you have from a community building standpoint?
That's the thing right there. I think the way Deborah said it is, like, I want to sort of create a little FOMO. Like, I want people to think whoa, wait, I wasn't invited to that. Like, why wasn't I invited? How do I get in that room? That's what I want people leaving with. Right. And so, we're not publishing anything anywhere, but we're making sure photos are being taken, and that people, if you bring a ton of value, people will, like, you'll get people to share. You can prompt them there, like Deborah just suggested, or mentioned that Denise does. But yes, I want people to think like, dang, how can I make sure I'm in that room next time? And I know we're running short on time, but I think this is really key and something that's worked well for us that I want to share. I also spend a little more money and have somebody else, like a professional writer, write notes for me from the event. So I record the whole thing. While I don't publish it anywhere, I record it so we have it if we need it, but also so I can have the writer write it. And I'm then going to have the notes taken, and I will create a document. And I now have at least 2 follow-ups for every attendee, which is, hey, Deborah, just wanted to let you know, I decided to have my podcast notes writer, write notes for our mastermind last week. Do you want to copy those when I get them? Literally 100% of people say yes. I've never had somebody tell me no. And so now I get to follow up and go, hey, Deborah, here's those notes I promised you. These are pretty good. And if I paid attention and I know what she keyed in on, I can circle. I'll be like, dude, when we started talking about the Facebook ad library, or when we started talking about the content creation or virtual assistants or whatever, that was so good, wasn't it? Just so you know, that's on page 2 or something like that. And then I send it to her. And then I've even got a third follow-up if I want, which is, hey, what did you think of those after you looked at them? So that's, to me, super, super, like, if you're taking the time to do an event, but not following up with a takeaway, I think you're missing so much.
I mean, that was goal. I mean, we've heard the fortunes and the follow-up, but what I like that Kevin said, which again is why you'd want to keep them more intimate, is, people are tired of being spammed. They're tired of the voice drops and like, it's not customized. And when you don't do that, you can actually lose trust. So the fact that you paid attention and then were intentional about your messaging, so that just made that person, again, feel like you noticed them.
Yep.
They're significant. Now there's an emotional connection. And then you honored your small little commitment, that when you make a small commitment and you deliver, you're building that trust and that relationship long-term. So I think that is 100%. I think that's where a lot of people fail to execute, is they focus so much on driving traffic there. And then it's, again, being super intentional while you're in the jam session, where you're listening and honing into what's important to each person. So then you can have a even better follow-up strategy, because that, to me, is where you can have exponential depth with a one-on-one relationship.
100%.
So that was pure gold, guys. If you're not doing that, I do want to tactically make sure we break that down and how you do it. Are you saying you have a writer at the event? Are you recording the event? Tactically, how are you getting those great notes so that you have those actionable post-event notes?
I'm recording and then sending it to my writer. She's not local.
How are you recording it? With a camera or with just an audio recorder?
So I'll give 2 things, because, like, for on the go stuff. So number one, when I use my preferred location, like, there's cameras in the room. So I've got it. I'm able to, like, have, like, all angles and actually have a decent production. And so I'll get the link for that day one, because we can stream it live on a unlisted YouTube thing, and I can send it to her day one right now, and then she has it and she can get to it, and she'll get to it, you know, so she could start on it today, but it's going to take a few days. Or I can also just I've also just taken recordings. So I have an app on my phone I use called Otter. It's amazing.
I'm a big Otter power. In fact,
Yeah.
I've got Otter going right now, guys, like on this little camera.
Yeah. So
whenever I'm doing interviews, I've got an Otter recording. So if what did he say? I can go back and like I'm an Otter
Dang,
power
that's
user.
genius. Where was
Yeah.
that pro tip?
So
I just gave a little pro tip, but I love
Yeah,
that you
it's
said
good.
that.
I'll send just that to her sometimes and say, hey, sorry if it's not very good, but I've got a recording and I've got a, you know, sort of, automatic generated transcription. And so here's something to start with. And so I'll send her that too. So it could just be a recording from Otter with the transcription, or it will actually be a video link.
Okay, cool. That's perfect. So guys, I think we got huge value, or a little bit over, worth every minute of it. Kevin, I can't thank you enough for making time to come into the mortgage coach community and, be such a valuable resource. Are there any closing thoughts you have, or anything you want to make sure gets said before we wrap this up?
I think we said it. I think we said it all. I hope, anyways.
All right.
At least my brain's empty. If not, maybe
All
I'll
right,
think of something
all right.
after my next one.
All right, Deborah, before I close it out, anything you want to ask or say?
I think my invite to your podcast, Kevin, must have gone to my spam.
Oh my God.
Just kidding.
All right, guys. So stay tuned for
We'll talk offline.
Kevin interviewing Deborah. I do want to remind folks, Deborah is an amazing, not only, social media strategist, and we have over 100 mortgage coaches that use her services. I'll bet you she could help you guys supersize and rock out a, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I need a little help with my mastermind. Now you got to be one of Deborah's clients to get that kind of help. She's not going to do it for free, but reach out to her. And then Kevin, remind everybody how they can follow your podcast, make sure they're engaged in your community. How do they do that?
Yeah, probably two easiest ways is the podcast. Number one is it's super originally titled The Kevin and Fred Show. My business partner's name is Fred. So there you go. We're super original. And then we've also got a Facebook group, which you mentioned earlier, called Next Level Agents. Those are our two sort of platforms that I would call like non-denominational, if you will. I don't care what brokerage you're at, what company you're at, doesn't matter. Say at the end of the day, it's about agents and mortgage people, everyone just sort of helping each other, not trying to sell services and what we do, but actually just kind of coming together. So Facebook, the group is called Next Level Agents, and then the podcast is called The Kevin and Fred Show. And those are probably the two easiest and best ways.
Yeah. And Deborah put her contact information below. We'll make sure Kevin's is below. By the way, someone asked, it's Otter, OTTER. And I don't think it's a .com. I think it's either
.ai. It's
.ai.
.ai.
.ai. They've got an app. So I've got the app on my iPad. I've got an app on my mobile device. I've got it on my desktop. I use it every day. I think I pay $10 a month. And it's the best $10 a month I spend, because it allows me to take better notes and show up better. Like if I would have been at that Todd Duncan event Deborah's going, I would have had Otter turned on my iPhone. And
dude,
I don't go to events
dude, it's the last day.
I don't go to events without turning that on. Like if I'm going to be, doesn't even matter what event I'm at. Like if that's getting turned on, and I'm going to record it all and have it ready to go.
Yeah. So guys, you just got a little bonus. We came here to talk about masterminds, and we just told you how to get good notes and crush it. Now, remember, if you're in a room full of realtors, you need to let people know that things are recorded. If you're having private personal phone calls, I think you're supposed to let people know it's recorded, but I guess now you know that I have the superpower to record conversations. All right, guys, this is a wrap. Hopefully you got value from it. Remember, follow the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. Every day we're putting content into the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. Every Friday we're doing calls like this. And then I'm interviewing Hunter Markowart in 30 minutes. It'll be in the YouTube channel on leadership. So tune in, and Kevin, you the man, bro.
All right. See you guys later.
And
Bye.
give my best to Todd Duncan, Deborah, and have fun.
Yeah, I'll check my spam too, Kevin.
All right. You do that.
right.
Bye.
I'll
Take
text
care,
you.
y'all.
See you guys later.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.